Good afternoon, all, and thank you for attending. Our goal today for this Skype to Teams transition webinar is to walk you through sort of what Microsoft's vision for the enhanced unified communications platform will be, which is moving from Skype to Teams, give you an overview of what Teams is and what it does and how you can take advantage of the enhanced features that it offers. We're going to do a live demo of it, and then we're going to walk you through sort of how to transition to using Teams from Skype and some of the integration points and coexistence considerations you need to make as you move from Skype to Teams. As always with the ProServeIT webinar series, if there's any questions at all as we proceed here, please put them in the window as we go. Don't save them to the end. However, at the end, we'll be happy to address any of anything you may want to go a little bit deeper on. As far as the agenda intro, obviously, who is ProServeIT? Very, very briefly. We're going to walk you through Teams, what it is, how it works, the enhanced features that it brings to UC, considerations for Teams, sort of how to get started, what the order of operations are to begin to adopt Teams, and then obviously Q&A at the end. Our goal is to get this overview done within about 30 minutes to take advantage of giving you all back some time, but again, we're happy to stay afterwards to answer any Q&A that you may have about sort of moving from Skype to Teams and how to get there. By way of introductions, Corey Reinecker is myself, VP of Alliances for ProServeIT, and Tony Caporaletti is our Senior Solutions Architect for UC at ProServeIT, who will be walking us through most of the technical aspects of the content today. So again, very briefly about ProServeIT, we just wanted to sort of give you a semblance of where we are, what we play with, and that's particularly important to Teams because Teams involves so many moving parts of Microsoft Cloud, O365, and all the moving parts there within that it's going to be crucial for you to ensure that your partner that you choose for the journey has a solid handle on all aspects of the Microsoft Cloud. So we do execute cloud transformations for our customers, and Teams becoming a almost weekly emphasis on Teams from Skype. So we thought this webinar to be pertinent given where we are today, and obviously crucial given how fast Microsoft is sort of moving the market to Teams from Skype. So when you work with ProServeIT, there's kind of three things we want you to think about. Number one is we maximize ROI in terms of what you adopt when you adopt your technology that you've invested in, and ensure that you purchase licensing and software as you are going to consume it, eliminating shelfware. We're very good at this, and there's major ROI in this approach that is a huge benefit for our customers. We are able to take you end to end on your journey to the cloud. There are many moving parts, many skill sets required, such as infrastructure, app dev, managed services, cloud, O365, change management, training. ProServeIT has that end to end with our own staff, which is quite rare in the marketplace, especially in Canada. And the third thing I'll say is that we do put security first. We seek at all costs to enhance security posture with every step that we take with you to ensure that you don't wind up on the news, and that we're taking advantage of the software benefits and the cloud solutions and cloud security that are at your disposal. Towards the bottom there, just some high-level overviews of how long we've been around. We do a lot of cloud. I think we're one of Microsoft's strongest on earth, and we're very proud of that. And we've won many awards recently to that effect. So now I'm going to pass things over to Tony Caporaletti for the more sort of Teams-based content for the webinar.
Thank you, Corey. It's good to be with everyone here. In looking at this first slide here, as many of you may have heard, Microsoft made an announcement recently that as of October 1st, they're going to be deprecating or for all new online tenants, Microsoft Office 365 tenants, Microsoft Teams is going to replace Skype for Business as the unified communications platform. So this is particularly important for users who are, one, not using Office 365, who are looking to adopt and purchase a subscription to use the service, and those who are actually using it today. What does that mean for all of us? And so Microsoft has a vision for intelligent communications, and that is that Teams becomes the core communications client for all Office 365 customers. With the new backend infrastructure of Skype supporting enterprise-grade voice and video and meetings, and then eventually artificial intelligence will transform and enhance our calling experience. So what's changing from what we're currently doing today? Well, if you're using Skype for Business, what's going to change? Well, potentially nothing right away, but eventually we're going to move to a new platform, which is Microsoft Teams. In the end, Microsoft has built a new higher quality voice and video infrastructure to support this new platform, and they're adopting and what's it called? They're enhancing, or there's a more rapid innovation of UC, unified communications capabilities. What's not changing? Microsoft is not getting rid of Skype for Business as a server platform for the on-premise users, but for the online tenants, they will be deprecating the service over time. So what does that mean for you? Well, Microsoft is going to make a commitment to, has made a commitment to cloud voice and video, and a commitment to compliance standards as well. And for those of us who are using the enterprise SKUs, they have increased the value of that E5 and E3 services. So what is Microsoft Teams? It is essentially going to be the hub for teamwork across the Office 365 platform. It is a chat-based workspace that enables teams to be more productive by giving them a single pane of glass and secure location that brings together everything a team needs, including chat, video, calls, files, and tools. It's the one place for all the needs of your teams. So Microsoft Teams delivers on 4 core promises as part of this new digital workspace. So communicate, collaborate, customize, and then and last but not least, working with confidence. So for communicate, Microsoft Teams solves for some of the communication needs of a diverse workforce. Since preview, it has evolved to include complete meetings experience as well as chat, voice, and video. You can use Teams for informal one-on-one group chats, either directly on your phone, your workspace, workstation, or if you have an open conversation in a channel. This enables people to share information in a transparent way to accelerate decision making. And it's super easy to move from a chat, from a face-to-face meeting, either voice or video. To collaborate, when it comes to collaboration, the deep Office integration enables today's multi-generational workforce to use Office apps that they're familiar with, such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, SharePoint, and even Power BI, right within the context of Teams without switching to a different platform. So today, let's say you want feedback from somebody. You typically, the traditional way to do it is you send a file across through email. Someone looks it over, makes changes, it sends it back and forth, and that creates the vicious cycle of multi versions 2, 3, and 4. It becomes cumbersome to jump between different email and other apps to get work done. Teams brings this all together for you.
Question here, Tony, from Jeff. What happens if you have E3 or E5 with compliance enabled for files within Teams?
So what happens with Teams enabled for files and chats within Teams?
For retention and for compliance.
I'm not sure I understand your question. What happens with it? Can you elaborate a little bit?
Let me get back to Jeff and I'll get back to you here in just a moment.
Okay, so moving on to customize, many of the other services that you currently use with Office 365 result in having to jump between and spend time and not only be the hub for Office 365, but for services and tools that you use on a day-to-day basis. So you can have the ability to customize Teams with tabs and connectors and bots, such as Dropbox or GitHub or Trello. And last but not least, Microsoft Teams comes with enterprise voice, enterprise level security and compliance, which customers feel is a real value add for them.
Tony, just to confirm, if you have compliance for files for 7 years and that file's within Teams, will Teams respect the 7-year compliance setting in the E3, E5?
Yes, as far as I know, it will. Correct. Thank you for that. So for this slide here, I just wanted to show that Teams is built on the Office 365 suite of products that you're already using today. And if you look at this, if on the left, you got your people, which is your contacts, your agenda being a calendar, action items, and in the center, this is the core applications that Teams is built on. Mainly it integrates with Exchange, Stream, SharePoint, OneNote, and other applications like Planner and Trello. And today, if you're using Skype for Business today, it has same functionality and even enhanced functionality to chatting, voice calls, video, screen sharing, and presentation of content. So what I thought I would do is I thought I would just run through a quick demo of Teams today and show some of the key points that I thought would, an everyday user would take and use. Because I know a lot of us are probably using Skype for Business today and have heard that Teams is coming down the pipe and are wondering how is it going to affect me. Well, truth is not that much. To be honest with you, it's going to be quite a better platform. Might be scary at first, but not to worry. So let me just pull up the Teams app. So if you are not familiar with the Teams interface, this is it here. Most of your primary tabs are here on the left. As in Skype for Business, you'd have your chat window here. This is all of, my contacts. And if you're using Skype today, all of your contacts automatically are ported over or actually synced between the two applications. And we'll talk about that in a few slides, how these two integrate with each other. So I've got my chats, recent chats with different users. What's different here in Teams as in Skype for Business is that all of the different chats that you engage in with other users, they're all persistent chats now versus the one-off chats that can be deleted. They may not show as deleted necessarily, but you used to have access to them in Exchange in your inbox. But today they're here perpetually in Teams. And if you're moving down, you'll have access to your calendar. You'll notice here that I've got a couple of different meetings that are scheduled for today and tomorrow. Some of them are Skype meetings, and actually there's one here that's a Microsoft Teams meeting, which someone has created. And calls tab, you have access to all your history, phone calls that you've made. You also notice here that this history of phone calls I've made are some from Teams and then some from Skype for Business as well. And what's really cool about this Files tab is that now you have access to all of these recent files that you've worked on. So what's interesting here is that these files that you see are files that I've been working on, not necessarily in the Teams application, but working outside of them in either Word or PowerPoint, Excel. They're actually showing here as my recent files, which is really cool. And you'll notice that the cloud storage container is OneDrive is already active here in my Teams application. And that's because I have a OneDrive account with Office 365. However, if you notice at the bottom, there's an Add Cloud Storage button. With the click of a button, you're now able to add an account for either Dropbox, ShareFile, Google Drive, etc. And eventually there'll probably be more here, but right now these are the ones by default that you can add. So now you don't have to scroll between different applications to use and search and use files. You can do it all within this single pane of glass essentially. So this is really kind of the first time that I've seen in using Microsoft that this is kind of the first application that has the ability to transition away from being Outlook being the dashboard per se, and then moving into another application like Teams, where you have access to almost everything that you work on a daily basis, without having to scroll back and forth between applications, which is a pretty big deal. And I see this only evolving over time. So moving on here, the second important button is the Teams button. So what's nice here is that now we can create different groups, what they call teams. Essentially, is we can use these teams to collaborate with multiple different people, let's say in our organization or even external to our organization. And the nice thing is that we can have chats, we can create multiple channels as part of this particular team. We can add and remove members, and we actually can manage the security and permissions to this particular team right within this dashboard, essentially. So if you notice here, you can add files to this particular team that's been created, and this one. And a lot of things that I use, to be honest with you, I use OneNote a lot. So a lot of these different teams that are created, we've added a OneNote notebook to them to share content back and forth.
Question here, Tony from Louise wants to know if there's any storage costs to the chats always being persistent in Teams.
No, there's no additional storage costs that I'm aware of at this point. So and let's moving on here. So let's actually go and create a team real quick here. Let's see, join one. So you'll notice that what pops up here is create a team, join a team with a code, and there's actually a team here that's already been created within our organization that I just now realized for managed services. So I could actually try and join this team by just clicking this button, or I can create a code for a specific team that I'm part of, and I can send that out to the users that I want to join this team, and they can just enter that code and be a part of it. So if I create a team now, let's say team Corey and Tony, I'll say private. Let's say using a template. I'm not going to use it as a template. And I'll say next. So it'll create the team, and now I can start adding members as I like. And you notice as I start typing Corey's names pop up. Add. And now he's a member. So just like that, a new team is being created, and now we can start sharing files, having our own conversations back and forth, etc. One thing I wanted to show here too, I don't want to dig in too much of this, but there's the ability to create and add different tabs to your teams, which is really the power of this application. And let's say here for an example, you have an Excel spreadsheet that you use between a different group of people that you frequently access. You're able to add it here as a tab, which is very handy. And say for me and Corey, I want to add Power BI, for our sales team to see some of the metrics that we're working with. There's already two that's showing up here in my Power BI portal that I'm using already. And so if I wanted to, I could just click on this and add it to this team so I have quick access to it. I don't have to go and log into a different portal every single time and find it. So I'll just back out of this. And I think I'll stop there as far as the demo goes. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions, but I just wanted to show. Actually, there's one other thing I wanted to show here too while we're in the interface, is that let's say you're using Skype for Business today, and you're wondering, well, how's this going to change how I create meetings today? Well, you still have the same ability to create meetings and join meetings and etc. And we'll talk about this in a later slide, but essentially is if I bring up my Outlook application, and let me drag it over, is I wanted to show you the experience. So for me today, if if I'm creating meetings within Outlook, what's great is that now I can take this meeting, let's say for Stephanie, I want to create a meeting out of this. Now I have the ability to make this a Teams meeting instead of a Skype for Business meeting. So because we're in islands mode, I'm able to use both applications side by side until which time the administrator or the moderator of the tenant decides that, okay, we're going to cross over now and start using Teams full time. So it gives you the ability to try out the service and get used to it, get used to the functionality to make it easier for the transition. So now instead of keeping a Teams meeting, it's now a Teams meeting. My phone number or the toll number to join the meeting is there by default, as it is with a Skype meeting with the conference ID. So on a day-to-day basis for the typical user, not a lot has changed. The interface is a tiny bit different, but it's still going to be a great experience.
Question came through, Tony. Can you add people from outside your organization to the team?
Yes, actually, that's a good question. You can add people outside your organization to a team. That's one of the great benefits of this new platform. So how does this new application, how does the Skype for Business and Teams interoperability work? So as customers transition, this is going to be a critical step. So Teams has the ability, as we've mentioned, for users to communicate with one another, regardless of what app they use. And Skype for Business and Teams users can call or chat across apps to each other, which is key as we transition. So what does coexistence mean? In this case, it's the presence of both Skype and Teams as we journey from Skype away from Skype to Teams. So there's essentially, I'll call it 2 or 3 different modes in this case. So there's what's called islands mode, which is the use of both Teams and Skype for Business. I don't know who come up with these names, but it's Microsoft, and it's just the way it's always been. So there's islands mode, which is the use of both applications. There's Teams mode, and then there's Skype only mode. So customer deployments can involve, multiple modes at different times, and then, as we transition, we move into Teams only eventually. And so I thought, rather than confuse things, I wanted to highlight these 2 because these are really the only 2 that are going to be paramount as we move forward. Islands, which is, your chat, calling, and meetings and collaboration, and then there's going to be Teams only.
Question in from Mark. Will Teams provide a mobile app?
Very good question. Actually, while you're asking that question, I'm going to try to showcase that if I can. So let me just bear with me for a moment. Yeah, so as with any application, you'd expect there to be a mobile app. I'm a big mobile user, and I definitely want a mobile app if I can help it. So let me see if this is going to work. I've got the ability to present it on my desktop, but I'm not sure that it's working. Okay. Well, it's not showing up, but essentially, yes, there is a mobile app. It does give you the same, from what I've noticed, it gives you the same features and functionality as you do on your desktop version. And I'm starting to play around with the calling features with it, primarily lately in the messaging chat functionality, and it seems to be a pretty good experience so far. Okay, moving on. So I wanted to show this slide because this is a list of all the different features and functionality that has kind of evolved through the calling roadmap from Skype for Business over into Teams. And with Microsoft making that announcement as of October 1st, they've actually hit this timeline ahead of their expectations, which is the reason why they've chosen to make this live as of October 1st. So all of these features and functionality are available today, from my understanding. And some of them, you won't be able to read them all now. We will make this available. This is available in public as a public roadmap as well. So what can you do today? Well, there's a transition methodology that is Microsoft's laid out. So obviously you want to plan your journey relative to the Teams roadmap. Teams is now fully available, so a lot of this is already already in use. So the second thing you want to do is you want to onboard users by beginning using Teams today. So if you're not using Teams today, I encourage you to download the application, try it out, because eventually there's going to be a cutover date, and we're all going to be forced to eat this. So run Teams side by side for a while until at some point when you feel comfortable to make that complete transition. And so what's next? So next steps for what we've done. We've taken this for some other customers. We've created this essentially like next steps for how we go about migrating customers who are currently either on Skype for Business on-prem, or you're using Skype for Business in the cloud today, and maybe only some of the features. We've kind of created this methodology to gather some information, understand how you're using your phone system today, so that we can help you on this journey to start adopting Teams. So we encourage you, if you have an account manager today, reach out to them if you have questions, and we'll help you move through this journey together.
A question came in, Tony, from the audience. Is there an additional fee for Teams?
Well, if you have one of the enterprise SKUs today, or even I think some of the business SKUs, it comes with it. So there's no additional cost. However, if depending on your SKU that you do have, if it's E3 or E5 or E1, there might be some additional functionality, additional cost to turn on some functionality, such as the calling features. You may not be using the PSTN dialing, the calling plans. If you do want to use that, there would be some additional costs potentially.
Next question is, do I keep my DID phone number from Skype when I move to Teams?
So yes, you can, of course, with any migration of a phone system, you'd want to port your number over, and Microsoft certainly has that capability today. So we just put this slide in to show there's some further resources that you can go and research. We'll make this available as part of our thank you email that we send out. And again, if you need additional information, please reach out to your account manager, or you can even email us at cloud@ProServeIT, and we'd be happy to put you in touch with someone to answer some questions for you. So I think that is pretty much wraps it up. I wanted to leave enough time here for question and answer because I figured there'd be quite a bit of questions coming out of this. So thank you all.
Thank you, Tony. We'll just stay on the line here. For those who have questions, please put them in the window and we'll be happy to address them. So to clarify, am I able to run Skype and Teams side by side?
Yes, absolutely. That's the ideal scenario for now. If you're using Skype for Business in Office 365, you definitely want to use them side by side for a while.
Will Skype provide presence within Outlook the same way, will Teams provide presence within Outlook the same way Skype does? Next question.
Yeah, very good question. You'll notice that within today, obviously within email, you'll see your presence within Outlook. That same functionality will transfer over when you convert over to Teams. until you make that complete transition, it's going to still say Skype for Business as the primary. But as you move over to Teams, it just works.
Understood. Next question is from Buck, which might be a little too deep for this, but I'll give it a shot anyway. Can we automate the creation of teams with the creation of groups within Active Directory?
Automate the creation of teams within Active Directory. So actually, interestingly enough, I was just reading up about this today. That's very interesting. So from what I was reading, the best way to go about creating teams is to do it within Teams, because then that populates over to Active Directory and Exchange. But if you do it vice versa, the functionality should work, but it will take time to replicate, and it may not replicate correctly at the moment, from what I was reading today.
All
Good
right,
question.
awesome. This is from John. If you have Office 365 Teams, do you still have to have Skype? I guess the answer there is no, because Microsoft's going to push you that way anyway, right?
So you have the ability from within the admin console to turn on islands mode, or just Teams mode. So that's really up to the administrator of the tenant.
Awesome. Oh, what is the integration between a team and an Office 365 group?
So actually they're the same thing. So if you'll notice in your Exchange mail platform, let me bring it up here to show you. They are essentially one and the same. So when you've created teams within Teams, if you go down here to groups in email, you'll notice that all of these are the same as with my teams. So now they're cross-platform integrated. So eventually the way I see this happening and playing out is, as we move to a more social media-esque world, we've probably all heard at some point that email is kind of going by the wayside. That's not going away anytime soon, but I see now how we're transitioning to this apps-based and chat-based social media type platform. And this is really just the beginning of it with Teams. This is only going to evolve over time.
Next question from Andre. Do we need to create additional DNS records for Teams to work?
That actually, I don't think so. If you're using Skype for Business, I don't believe you do. But I would have to take that away to be positive. It's a good question.
All right, so we'll follow up with Andre directly on that one. Thanks, Andre. Good question. We'll leave the webinar open for a few more moments here. If anybody has anything else to ask, please do. This is great. All right, there's a couple more questions here. What is the time frame for PSTN service in Canada from Buck?
Well, PSTN service availability is available now as we sit. I think it was enabled in May, from what I remember. So full PSTN functionality, and one of the services that came available recently from Microsoft is direct routing, which is really cool because it allows you to use your own basically PSTN provider and connect it into Microsoft so that you can use Teams, which is brilliant in my opinion. So if you don't want to use Microsoft as a phone system, you don't have to, but you can just use the interface with Teams. So that you get to use the kind of the best of both worlds if you have an Office 365 subscription.
Question from Marie, which is actually the same as the situation I'm in. So it says, I don't see the call function on my Teams app. Is there an update available? So I'm assuming she's not PSTN integrated or homed in the cloud.
That's probably true. If you don't have the call function, you should have, if you're using, I mean, depending on the SKU you're using, you should be able to call users in your organization back and forth, but not necessarily outside the organization if you don't have that PSTN calling plan enabled.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, thank you. Another question from Mark. Is there any reason why I would not want to use Teams only today instead of Skype?
Good question.
I suppose perhaps one thing we're seeing there that I can speak to that's outside of the IT is that we're seeing a larger emphasis needed on change management for users. And given there's so much change from going from Skype to Teams and how people use the interface, you might want to tread a little slowly there, Mark, in terms of adoption, and make sure that your users are comfortable.
Yeah.
So Buck is asking what feature you have to enable on the admin portal to enable the click to call button in Teams. So perhaps, Buck, what we'll do is we'll reach out to you separately offline and walk you through that through the portal, no problem. And if you do have any sort of steps, you got a Q&A questions, you want something offline to the group still on the call, cloud@ProServeIT.com. We'll give you a survey to fill in so we sort of understand where you're starting from and what we need to do to move you, and then we'll give you a journey in terms of the steps to get there based on your starting position. It's about a 3-page survey. It's not too tough to fill in, but it's very, very thorough, so we understand all the moving parts and sort of how to get you there from here. So it's 2:39. I'm going to leave the bridge open here until 2:41. So please, if there's anything else you guys would like to ask, please do so in the window. Okay, thank you. Thank you to all. Again, please email us at cloud@proserveit.com with any further questions, and we're happy to follow up with you directly and get further in depth as needed. Thanks a lot. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.